It was a typical chaotic and noisy morning in New York. The streets were packed with crowds. The sound of honking cars echoed, and countless conversations blended into the background, reflecting the energy of the metropolis. Yet amidst all this noise, a man stood quietly on a street corner, wearing a plain shirt, worn-out jeans, and a comfortable jacket. This man was none other than Hollywood's renowned actor, Keanu Reeves. But that morning, to those around him, he was just an ordinary person. There was a calmness in Keanu's gaze as he observed the people in the city, as if drawing meaning from every detail. After a moment, he flagged down a passing taxi. Opening the door gently, he said to the driver, "To downtown, please." The taxi driver, Frank, was a seasoned New Yorker who had spent years navigating the city's bustling streets. Despite the weariness etched on his face, he had never lost his knack for quickly judging his passengers. He glanced at Keanu and thought, what could this guy do for a living? As Frank started the engine, he said in a sarcastic tone, "Downtown? Huh, that's a pricey area, you know." Keanu responded calmly, "Yes, I'm aware." Frank glanced at Keanu in the rearview mirror, finding his quiet demeanor unusual. There's something odd about this guy, he thought. Breaking the silence, he spoke with a mocking tone. "People like you don't usually head to downtown. It's a bit elite, if you know what I mean." Keanu merely smiled at the comment. "Yes, some places do seem that way," he replied politely. Frank couldn't make sense of Keanu's calm and humble behavior. Trying to provoke a reaction, he asked, "So, what do you do for a living?" "I work in the film industry," Keanu replied simply. Raising his eyebrows, Frank chuckled. "Oh really? Commercials or small-time stuff?" Keanu nodded slightly. "Something like that." Finding the response amusing, Frank laughed loudly. "I figured you were a small fish, but hey, I guess even small fish can swim in big seas sometimes. Anyway, everyone's just trying to make it, right?" Suddenly, a woman ran into the street, waving her arms frantically. In her arms was a lifeless-looking child. She screamed, "Please help! My son can't breathe. We need to get to a hospital now." Frank slammed on the brakes, but gave her a dismissive look. "This is a private fare, lady. You'd be better off finding another ride," he said coldly. The woman pleaded again, desperation in her voice. "Please, it's an emergency. My son might die." Without a moment of hesitation, Keanu intervened. "Open the door, Frank," he said firmly. Frank hesitated. "But this is my fare." Keanu's expression turned authoritative. He repeated in a calm but commanding tone, "Frank, I said open the door." Reluctantly, Frank unlocked the door. The woman and her child hurried into the back seat, tears streaming down her face as she cried, "Please save my son." Frank began driving as fast as he could, but the congested streets made progress nearly impossible. The woman, clutching her son, kept crying out, "He's not breathing. Please hurry." Keanu gently held the boy's hand and spoke softly, "Hang in there, little buddy. We'll get you to the hospital soon." The boy weakly nodded. Frank glanced nervously at Keanu through the mirror and said, "We're not getting anywhere in this traffic. The streets are gridlocked." Placing a hand on Frank's shoulder, Keanu said calmly, yet firmly, "Do your best. Find another way." Frank took a deep breath, veered into side streets, and tried to navigate through alleys to bypass the traffic. Meanwhile, Keanu checked on the boy, reassuring the mother that everything would be okay. They finally arrived at the hospital. Without hesitation, Keanu carried the boy in his arms and ran toward the emergency entrance. Doctors immediately took over, rushing the child into the ER. The mother, overwhelmed with gratitude, held Keanu's hands and sobbed, "Thank you so much." Keanu offered her a gentle smile. "Your son will be fine. Focus on him now," he said. Frank stood by his cab, watching the scene unfold. For the first time in years, he felt something stir inside him, a warmth that replaced his usual indifference. As they drove back, Frank was uncharacteristically quiet. Finally, he spoke. "Today, we saved a life. That's probably the most important thing I've ever done." Keanu looked at him and smiled softly. "Yes, Frank, sometimes touching someone's life can also change ours." Taking a deep breath, Frank admitted, "I judged you when I first saw you, but today I learned a lot." Keanu replied, "We all make mistakes. What matters is learning from them." The next day, local news outlets ran the headline, "Keanu Reeves saves child's life in New York taxi ride." But for Keanu, it was simply an act of humanity. Meanwhile, Frank began to see everyone he encountered in a different light. This story shows how one small action can make a world of difference. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you in the next story. God bless you.